What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hops Geek News, your home for comic books, movies, TV shows, and typically we feature a beer of the week. I am Matt. Alongside me, as always, is Lauren, and today we are going to spoil the heck out of Thunderbolts, the latest Marvel Cinematic Universe film to grace our presence in theaters. We went and saw it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to spoil it. So if you haven't seen it yet, come back when you have. If you have, buckle up. We're going to go along for the ride. But first things first, go ahead, like, subscribe, share, follow, all of that good stuff on social media at Hops Geek News. Come hang out with us, and then make sure you follow, drop a review, help the algorithm gods, help us, appear on searches, things like that, by searching Hops Geek News on all of your favorite platforms. So I'm going to be drinking today, kind of fits the theme because the can is Walter's Blonde Roast. It's a blonde coffee porter with cacao nibs, coming in at 7% ABV from Benchtop Brewing right here out of Richmond, Virginia. I really love this brewery. Great spot. And then their Walter's Blonde is my favorite from them. But, it's just, I love a good coffee blonde. That's what I've got. And the can art is just a guy who's in darkness with kind of looks like the void. So
darkness. I get it.
The void. It looks like the void. The can looks like the void. So that's what I got. What are you drinking over there, Lauren?
So what kind of super soldier serum did you get? Did you get the regular kind, Hydra?
I got the one that gives me ADHD. So unfortunately, I didn't get anything.
Soup juice.
Oh man, so you got the good one.
I got the good kind. I got the fancy kind.
And governments. Oh man,
this is my first time drinking soup juice out of a soup juice glass from Family Business Brewing.
Look at that.
And you know what? There's a little bit of family business in this because you had Yelena and Alexi were a big part of the story. So
oh man, yes,
that's what I'm
really
drinking.
did. It's funny because we're recording this on Star Wars Day, so we're not talking about a Star Wars yet. I have an Endor shirt on, but that's because we're going to be doing a Patreon movie night later on where we watch Return of the Jedi, where we just like to get together with the Patrons, kind of hang out, drink some beers if you want. Don't have to drink beers. We just watch a movie together. So that's what we do.
Water or tea.
Or
Tea's
water.
Nice.
Juice. I don't care what you drink, man. Just come hang out. It's about getting together with the family. The family.
Milk.
Exactly. Now,
not Corona.
Thunderbolts, let's kind of get into it, man. Thunderbolts is a 2025 American superhero film based on the Marvel Comics featuring the team, the Thunderbolts. Now, it's produced by Marvel Studios. It was directed by Jake Schreier, screenplay by Eric Pearson, Joanna Callow, and it was, obviously based on Marvel Comics. It stars Florence Pugh, Sebastian Stan, Wyatt Russell, Lewis Pullman, Geraldine Viswanthan, Chris Bauer, Wendell Pierce, David Harbour, Louis Dreyfus, and as we'll get into it in a minute, Olga Kurylenko. And,
pour one out.
Good Lord. It was released May 2nd in the United States. And, the budget was $180 million. And so far it's already made $162.1 million. So it's been, one of the Rotten Tomatoes, if you listen to that thing, it's already at 95% or something like that. One of the highest.
I don't know. That stuff's always just so they rate great movies crappy. So
I don't buy into the Rotten Tomatoes even when it fits my narrative, just because
exactly.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and let's give our fresh spoiler-free thoughts initially, like what we thought when we left the theater. We'll start with you, Lauren. What did you think leaving the movie theater? How'd you feel?
So it's interesting because I feel like this Marvel movie was so different than any other Marvel movie. So I was intending on writing a review for Nerd Initiative, and Ken wrote one and I read it and I was like, oh, this is a really good review. If I have time, I'll write one. And I felt like I never fully finished processing what I saw well enough to put words that were worth reading into a review. That's a great introduction to now listen to all my thoughts on this movie. Keep listening to this podcast. But and I know you shared some thoughts on social media, and whenever you do that, I actually don't listen to those ahead of time because I always want my reactions to be genuine when I hear them with you when I podcast. Yeah. So I know that you liked the movie, and I did like the movie, but I feel like it was so different that I'm still not fully sure how I felt about everything in the movie because it wasn't what I expected. And again, I'm now going into these movies not having watched the trailers. I did watch the trailer for Fantastic Four because I feel like those are all new characters. And I know all these characters. I've watched everything leading up to these characters, but I did not know what exactly to expect in the movie. And there was a lot of good surprises and great moments and everything. And this wasn't the first time we saw a superhero with mental health issues. Obviously, Moon Knight I loved. I thought that was done so beautifully. I feel like Moon Knight is so underrated. But I don't know how much I loved this movie because I felt like how they left Sentry, he was left as a ticking time bomb. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it.
I
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Well,
Yeah, I
no,
want to
I'm
hear your
just like
thoughts
on
now.
that point, like Sentry, right? It's a lot of people don't like Sentry. I don't really feel either way. I do have a problem with the fact that Sentry is essentially this unbeatable god. I mean,
Right.
you
How do you fight that?
you can't fight.
That's
He has
not
no
fun.
weaknesses. It's at least with Superman, right? Superman has kryptonite. Sentry has
I said that. I'm like, we
the
need some
power of
kryptonite right
friendship,
now.
I guess, when he's not
Power.
depressed.
See, I don't like that stuff. That was my big issue with Thunder and Love, with Thor Thunder and Love. It was like, you this isn't Jack Frost in Santa Claus 3. Like the only time love has been the answer and it worked was Frozen. That's the only time
Honestly,
I feel like it has
yeah,
worked.
you're right. And so that's I know why Ken, from ODPH and Nerd Initiative doesn't like Sentry. I thought that Lewis Pullman did, and we'll dive into this. So I'll just go ahead and give you my fresh out of theater thoughts. I thought this movie was great. I really, really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was so refreshing that it took place kind of in a vacuum almost. It wasn't one of those films that drug out over multiple days or weeks because it made sense. We were all wondering how, like, what's Daredevil doing, or what's Captain America doing, or what's XYZ. This movie
Daredevil didn't even
happens,
know. It was darkness. He had no idea.
well, this movie happens relatively quickly, and
Yeah.
it was very interesting how you get the team together. I thought that was clever how Valentina tricked the team into going after each other to tie up loose ends and to hide her tracks, and how Bucky got involved and they were trying to impeach her. And then they get to New York City and everything happens in the span of an hour at New York City at that. And so there was never enough time for other heroes to get involved because that's what people's biggest complaints are. I loved that. I thought, Florence Pugh and Yelena were standouts. She was amazing. The moments she had with Red Guardian, who David Harbour stole the show himself, were great. And then, Lewis Pullman did an incredible job shifting from Bob to the Sentry to the Void and showing emotion. And then him and Yelena had a lot of chemistry together. My obvious complaint is the end credit scene that we'll kind of break down late in a little bit, but also the fact that why there was no payoff for Taskmaster's death. It was just, I saw an interview
Just
why they
cannon
did it,
fodder.
but also it seemed okay. Taskmaster gets shot in the head, dies. Yeah, Yelena's a little sad. Yeah, they mention it with Ghost a little later, but they just kind
Which
of,
I was glad they did. They did bring it up. And
they
Yelena made a
did.
good point. She was a killer who got killed.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
she was
they loot her
doing.
body and then move on pretty quickly, and Ghost is just like, meh. And I get it, but I also kind of like, okay, last time we saw Ghost, remember we had this conversation on our Thunderbolts pre-show was, hey, waiting on that quantum juice. So is she good now? Is she not? Like, as far as
I
tearing
think
up her
she's better. She's
body, I
not in
think
pain,
she's,
and it wasn't like she had to go back to her cell to like regenerate. So
yeah, that's fair.
I think she's better.
Yeah.
But I will say with the whole like, where is everybody else? One of the things I loved in Endgame and even in other stuff we've seen was we saw that the other heroes were doing things. Like
Yeah.
the Ancient One was fighting the aliens while Doctor Strange was doing surgery over, there. So just because we're not seeing them do stuff doesn't mean they weren't. It doesn't mean that Daredevil wasn't trying to get people to safety, or that Spider-Man, I mean, hell, Spider-Man could have been in class. Again, you said it happened so fast.
It
Like,
does. I mean, the Void pretty much took over New York City and sent everybody in New York to the Void really fast before
right.
anybody could react. I mean, it could be one of those things. Oh, something's going on. Let me swing into action. As you're swinging into the darkness, you get turned into the
Disappear.
Void.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. So I'm
Like
totally okay. Oh my
Bucky's
God.
response, they're like, "Did you see anything bad?" And Bucky's like, "No, I had a totally cool past. I didn't see
Yeah,
anything."
I love that I've had a great past, all that kind of stuff was pretty. I do wish that they had gone to that. So we'll go into it. The movie kind of kicks off with Yelena monologuing and talking about how alone she is. She works, she's alone, she drinks, and
She's
it's
still
funny.
processing Natasha's death.
She never really had a chance to get past that. And I really enjoyed that opening moment. And then she's basically working in a sweatsuit, fighting and killing in a sweatsuit. My biggest question is what happens to the guinea pig? I want to know what happened to the guinea pig.
She had it at the end.
Oh, did she have it at the end? I didn't even see it at the end.
Yeah, we saw it again at some point. I think it was in one of the photo shoots she had it. You know how they did the photo montage at the end? So the
Oh,
guinea pig was in one of those.
Dang, I
So
didn't even see that. I was too
dude, my
busy
head
like,
went straight to like the boys, because you know the guinea pig and the boys when they find Soldier
oh
Boy?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
he's in the comics too, in a very different whatever. So my head immediately went to like, oh, it's a super guinea pig and this is just wrong. Maybe that might be a hamster, but you know.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It would have been just, I did wonder because she's walking out on the phone after she takes down, and I like how they handle it too. It's kind of dark because she's fighting the scientist, trying to get his face to scan, and then he shoots
He
himself on
kills
accident.
himself.
Yeah. And it's just like, oh, well, that's no good. And
I
she
think when
has to blow the
she
whole thing up.
sees him, she's like, that looks like a face that can open a lab or something like
It
that.
was so good. It was a really good opening. And then talking with Valentina, how she ends up going to Red Guardian's house that night, who's sitting there and he's watching himself as on the old, and just gives her that talk. It was amazing because she's waiting outside. Hi, Dad. She still calls him Dad. That was a really good
Yeah.
emotional moment. But then he explains, I wish I was a hero. I would love to be a hero. Give me Valentina's number. He's a limo driver. And I thought that little aspect was funny. And she comes and she's like, I'm just alone. And kind of tells Val she'll do one last job, which leads them to the vault.
Always one
And,
last job. Never heard
but we
that
also have
before.
the impeachment. What were your thoughts on the whole impeachment stuff going down? Because I thought that was pretty interesting that they were trying to impeach her for the whole, Oxcorp stuff.
I thought that was fantastic. I thought that that made complete sense too, because like obviously she's a shady character. We knew
Yeah.
she was a shady character from the get go, and if you're reading the comics too, obviously, you know she's
She's not a great person.
right. And I feel like she could not have been better cast. I was so glad she got more time. I thought the impeachment was a great way to not only show that the US government is trying to control the bad guys, but how poorly they're doing and how evil and clever Valentina is. Because that end credit scene, I'm like, are they really going to have her be this weak person that runs away? Because that doesn't fit her character or her narrative. And then how it played out was genius. The way she
Yeah.
had them like walk through there, and it wasn't even like, this is your new team, the Thunderbolts. This is the new Avengers. And I was just like, dude, I love this woman. I know she's like my soldier
Okay,
boy for the
she was
MCU,
kind of,
man.
I know she's not a good person,
Right, but you love
but
her.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus plays her so well. She's
She's
smart and
phenomenal.
confident and like a badass woman character, and you can't help to
Hmm.
kind of be like, all right. And she looked a little jacked when she was in that half dress that she had, like the shoulder out. She looked like she'd be kind of working out a little bit, her shoulders and stuff. And that they turn around, do that whole scene, which they do the photo op really quickly, which is fun. And then it leads into Bucky, who's struggling as a congressman. Turns out he was elected and he's really struggling with it because he
Of
pulls,
course he is. The guy barely talks.
yeah, well, he
Although his
pulled
speech, when they're
the,
like, what are your concerns? It was like, this actually sounds like something a politician would say today.
I mean, yeah, I loved how he pulled the dude away from the two cameras and he's like, Bucky, we got to do this the right way. You're not, we're not doing this winter. So everybody kept harboring, or whatever the word might be, but calling him Winter Soldier.
So
And I wonder how that affects him.
yeah, because the Winter Soldier was not him.
The Winter
And
Soldier's
I
a bad
even
guy.
said
Yeah.
that when we were doing our recap for Falcon and Winter Soldier for Captain America Brave New World, where at the end it changes to Captain America and Winter Soldier, and there wasn't that character development for Bucky, which wasn't fair. And so anybody who doesn't read the comics, he's actually referred to in the comics now as Revolution. I think that's what it is.
Oh, that's his.
So
Okay.
he's not. I'll double check that real quick. So because he was in one of the most recent comics with Laura Kinney, they teamed up, and he's referred to as, I believe it is the Revolution. So I'm gonna double check that real quick before we have to fix that next week.
Well,
But yeah,
yeah.
why would you keep going by your evil name?
Everyone called because you saw Red Guardian was like, you're the Winter Soldier. You got really amped with that. And then everybody was just like, you're not the Winter Soldier anymore. You're this, that, or the
Yeah, it's
other.
Revolution.
And
Yeah.
so he really struggled with that aspect, which I thought was interesting. And then one plot point I wish they kind of kept a little bit more was his interactions with Mel, how he was flipping her and she was having a lot of doubts. But it seemed, I guess, right after the whole Void stuff went down, she's back to working perfectly fine with Mel, even though she was having her
I think
doubts and
she's
doing
just
secretive
scared
stuff.
at this point. She's young too.
She
So
is.
it's like when you're young, it's like you don't always know
Which I loved when
which
Bucky was,
side
I
is
think I
right.
was 90 then.
Yeah.
Always love when they like make fun of his age. That's one thing I
Yeah.
really enjoy
Well,
is
because
talking about his age.
he obviously looks younger, but like he is 106 or whatever. but he was asleep for a lot of that. So
He
he's
was.
not. So
Well,
just
that's like
because,
Cap too, because the one
yeah,
thing I saw somebody was asking, why does Red Guardian look older when he got the super serum? How does, and
because
they
he
kind of
wasn't
explained it
cryogenically
because
frozen at any point,
he
or
was
just
he got the
frozen.
Russian variation first of all, which isn't going to be as good as the original stuff.
Worked for
But
Jensen or for Soldier
well,
Boy.
come on,
Sorry,
this is the Marvel universe, man. Come on.
but I
But
mean,
second of all,
they
Bucky
pull
and
from that.
Steve were both frozen for a lot
Asleep.
of times,
Yeah.
so it slowed their stuff down. And Isaiah Bradley is
Right,
aged
he looks
slower as
his
well.
age. He
Yeah,
got the super soldier serum later than Cap did, so he
right.
looks proper for his age. Whereas
Yeah,
Cap did age. Once he went
he
back,
went back in
he
time.
was
He had
a
to go
freaking
back in
old
time
dude
to
in Endgame.
yeah.
Yeah,
I do wonder
yeah.
what Captain America, Steve Rogers is actually up to during all of this though, because he's not dead.
No, I don't know.
What
They
is
need to
he
address
doing?
that
What is old man
because,
Cap doing during all this? Is he just sitting on a bench at a park feeding geese? Like, what
like,
is he
just do a
doing? He
funeral
probably
or
still lives
something.
in New York City.
I feel like it's because he had to go like undercover to go back and stay with Peggy. So like
Maybe.
he's pretending like he's not, and so they have to forget that he still exists. But I feel like a nod or like a text or something, or just have like a different name. Like, wasn't there like another name that he had like as an alias at some point? They could like read the obituary or just like, I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, come on, we went to Peggy's funeral. Or even just have like
Yeah.
some random flashback where you see Steve in the back of Peggy's funeral, even though that still shows he's alive. I don't know.
Right. I don't know. Anyways, I do like, all right, when we get to the vault at this point, I do like the action sequences. Everybody kind of fights. So Yelena
There
has to
were good
go.
action scenes, but a couple of them looked a little too CGI. I feel like we're too old for that shit.
Well, some of the introductions to Bob, we'll talk about that in a second, but
I
I
wasn't
do
even thinking that. I was thinking
enjoy.
Yelena. Some of
Oh,
Yelena's moves
really?
were like a
Okay.
little too
There were
much.
some parts obviously later on in the end that looked a little obviously she was
Yes.
strung, but I do in the vault. She goes out, her target is Ghost, and it turns out Ghost target is Taskmaster. Meanwhile, John Walker is there to take out Ghost. So they all
Yelena.
kind of, or Yelena, yes, that's right. I'm sorry. And I thought she held her own pretty well against a super soldier, and considering all things. And also, I wasn't sure how Walker's shield works because isn't it his just metal, so it shouldn't
Well,
bounce and stuff
his
like
got
that.
destroyed, so I'm sure it's a completely new one that was given
Well,
to.
it got
Okay,
destroyed again and turned into a taco.
so here's that was really funny too when he said that. So here's another issue that I was like, okay, so I was so excited when we saw Captain America and they mentioned adamantium. So freaking excited. And in Wakanda Forever, uh, Val makes a comment like Martin Freeman's asking her, like, could you imagine if America had had vibranium, like what we could have done? And she's like, I dream about it, thinking how wonderful that would be.
Yeah,
Then we
yeah,
see Captain America where they're getting adamantium. So you would think like they're going to do these bad things. So like I almost thought like that shield should be made with adamantium. But if Sentry was able to bend it, if it was adamantium, then obviously he is incredibly strong because you shouldn't be able to bend adamantium that easy. Or it
true.
wasn't adamantium, but his shield was destroyed at the end of Falcon and Winter Soldier, the ghetto one that he like the
I thought his was just a metal one, but
right, but it
I
was
could be
complete
wrong.
POS and fell apart in that. So this shield in
That's
this
true.
movie was different. So I had assumed this was a,
Yeah, fair.
Oscorp, not Oscorp. Rocks. Did they combine
Oxcorp. It's
Roxxon and
Ox.
okay? At first I thought they said Roxxon, and I was
No,
like,
Oxcorp's its own thing, I think.
Daredevil's
Yeah, we
definitely going to
haven't
be in
gotten
this.
Oscorp at all yet that I
But we
know
have
of.
gotten Roxxon, but
Yeah,
only
Roxxon.
in
Yeah.
the series.
But
They
in
also mentioned
actually,
Roxxon in
speaking of
Cloak and
shields
Dagger.
though, I enjoyed Taskmaster's fight sequence. I thought she was kind of awesome. She had one little tiny bit of dialogue and then Ghost. I thought the phasing for Ghost was pretty cool, and then Ghost shows up and shoots her in the head, and that whole sequence goes down. Meanwhile, one thing I will say is a little convenient too. Yelena's the only documents that are out in the vault are the Sentry Project ones. And that leads to Bob, who gets released, and Bob shows up. And I really enjoyed Bob's introduction and how now they're trying to get out of the furnace because it turns out they were all going to get very brutally burnt to a crisp, which is very fitting that we're recording that on Star Wars Day. But, they end up getting out of the vaults. And I do really like, first of all, John Walker, he's got some hops with his super soldier serum. He was able to jump pretty high up. Steve never had those hops.
The higher they jump, the harder they fall. That was
Yes. And then it
fantastic.
turns out they all go back to back and walk all the way up the top, and then they get stuck. Like there's some comedic moments in there where they don't know what to do. And then John's hubris everybody's calling him an asshole. I love that everybody is
That was,
acknowledging
I
that
think,
John Walker is
my
such a
favorite part.
douche.
He is a douche,
Yes.
yeah, and
I
he
mean,
kept
he
getting
is.
called out. It was
And they didn't
fantastic.
redeem him either necessarily. I
No,
really love
they
that we
played
didn't
into it.
bother.
But this was redemption compared to Falcon and Winter Soldier because he was a bigger douche in
Yeah.
that.
Well, yeah. They do
Like
bring
the
up
way
the
they're
fact
like
that he was,
Captain
you
America for
killed
5
somebody.
seconds.
Yes, you were the Timu Captain America,
Yes.
the
The dime
off-brand, and then
store.
you killed somebody in public. And then
Right, they recapped his scenes in Falcon and Winter Soldier in 2 seconds.
they did. That's all you need to know is, yeah, he
I mean, he
killed
had a
somebody in
redemption at
public
the
and he's
end,
not. And I will say too, one of the sad
but
things that does make you
not the best
sympathetic
one.
towards him is you get that when he does touch Bob after they all get up the
That didn't
elevator
make me
shaft.
sympathetic, that made me think
Okay.
he was even bigger of a dick.
Well,
Dude, your
okay, it
fucking kid's
does.
crying.
Your kid's crying and he's too caught up in scrolling what people think about him. And then he's always talking about his wife, but then Bucky makes that comment about how his wife and kid left. And it's like,
Good for her.
oof. I mean, yeah, but
I didn't
also
feel bad for him. If anything,
you don't
he's
feel
even
bad.
more of a loser because he can't even admit his own and I think that's the thing, is like as he's
That's
going
the
on,
point.
he's
Yeah.
admitting his faults, yes.
Yes.
But I
That's what I
had
was trying
no
to get at.
empathy for him in that situation. It was one of those like, dude, figure it out. Accept what you did was wrong. This isn't over. She can't take your kid forever. Like,
I
get it
definitely
together.
agree. However, I will say that I've seen it in military people that this is unfortunately it's very realistic to how a lot of the veterans and the military dude bros live. They can't accept that. They go through divorces. They don't care about their family necessarily, and they aren't able to basically accept that it's their fault. So that part was
Gotcha.
actually realistic
So you've
as
actually
far as
seen
that
that
goes.
play out, and I have.
Oh
That's
yeah,
fair.
I
Okay.
have had
Yeah, I get
friends,
that.
I've had people I work with that this plays out pretty well. They're
Right.
unable to really accept, or on their end everything is not their fault, when realistically it's probably is a good point. And so I have seen that play out a lot.
Whereas I'm
As
looking through the eyes of a mom
right, exactly, and
who
that's
has
what's
no
what's good about
military
this.
experience.
We
Okay, yeah,
have
that
the
makes
two
sense.
sides of the coin. So
Still
to
don't feel
him,
bad for her though. But
oh,
I
I
agree. I understand now. That does definitely make me view it in a different light. But yeah, I'm still sticking with my dick comment.
fair, he is. And I really liked how Yelena also tied Bob to her, and as they're working their way through.
Yes, that was so cute.
And one
She
thing
was
that
like tying
really
a child to yourself.
he had the gun and he was shooting. He was like, ah, and it was he didn't know what to do. And I did like how everybody thought they were going to leave each other at one point. They're Ghost left. Oh,
They all have
Yelena's not
abandonment
pulling a thing.
issues.
Right,
Whether it
and they
was
can't trust each
intentional or
other.
not. Yeah, they all have
Yeah,
abandonment issues. Even like Walker, I think he looks at it, his country abandoned him and
yeah.
his best friend abandoned him, not intentional, but by death. That can still feel like an abandonment.
Again, that soldier
And
aspect.
then
He lost his best friend, and then to live your life for your country in that way, and then your country just throws you aside.
right.
That's again like
Yelena's
real.
same
That's very
shit.
realistic as to how America treats their veterans, man. Like they
Right.
squeeze, and then they just toss you aside. And so he's going through it because he needs a therapist, honestly. Like
I
Bucky,
was really hoping Bucky's therapist was going to show up in this.
hopefully, but
She definitely should be in that event. She should have a permanent
yes,
residency in that Avengers
I'm
building.
opening up a therapy, office in New York City at this point. If
We need to
I
bring
was
back
in the
Andrew.
MCU.
He should just go to Avengers Tower and
Literally, he should just
get an
open up
office.
residency in Avengers Tower. You'd make a absolute killing in New
But
York City.
yeah, it's like Ghost's parents abandoned her because they passed away. And so she was like, Shield, it wasn't great for her. Yelena was obviously abandoned
Yeah.
by Alexi and thrown in the Red Room. And then Bucky obviously was abandoned because everybody thought he was dead.
Yeah, well,
So
that
all
and the
of
whole
them have
thing
like
about he killed
lost
Tony
everybody.
Stark's dad, the whole Civil War stuff
Killed
too.
Tony Stark's
That's
mom.
what I meant. He killed Tony Stark's
I mean, he
mom.
killed a dad
And
too.
then, that whole thing on top of getting snapped and then coming back and fighting
Oh, and
Thanos, and then
Yelena
we
was
just move
snapped, but we don't know
on.
who the other of them were snapped. We know Yelena and
No.
Bucky were. That's it.
No, yeah, and again, Jesus, imagine being blipped, coming back, or living through the blip, and the next thing you know, everybody gets voided out, and you're just like,
Didn't we
"Oh
already
my
do
god.
this?
Oh my god, not again."
So I will say the
Jeez.
one thing when Yelena's like, I said to Alexi, like, I haven't seen you in a year. I thought, oh, good. At least they've seen each other since Black Widow.
They
Because I
have.
hate when they do that in movies where it's like you see people walk away and then when the next thing comes up and they're like, oh, we haven't seen this person since that movie. And I was like, what?
That's true. I do like how, but it's also one of those things because again, Yelena has that abandonment issue of I haven't seen you in a year. Where have you been? And so she's dealing with that as well, and she feels alone. Nat's gone. now her dad hasn't really, you know, been there for her, and that's a really good thing. But then we come out of the vault. I do enjoy. They get into their costumes, they get out, and Bob ends up running back, takes the bullets, and this is where he flies in the air, doesn't know what's going on. Then he basically turns into a giant tomahawk missile, blows everything up, and that's where we really see that Bob has the powers at this point. And everyone's walking, and this is where you get the limousine, the great limousine scene. Oh no! Oh god! He's like, Yelena, it's me, your dad. I love that the dad embarrassment.
The best though was when Walker saw Bucky come up Terminator style. He's
Okay,
like, "It's
that's
Bucky."
exactly what I thought. Was Bucky looks like Terminator? He had the
That was
shotgun and
intentional, I
every. Okay,
believe.
I think it had to have been. He's on the motorcycle. He comes up with the shotgun, everything, and everyone's like, "Yeah, Bucky!" And then Bucky blast them too, and I was just like, oof. And I actually really clever too.
Right.
The
And
way that they
locked
were
them
able
up.
to combat Ghost's powers was sound. I thought that was
Oh
pretty clever
yeah.
how they had that. And that whole chase sequence afterwards. But it was funny the introduction to Red Guardian, how
Oh,
he finally got in with, Val, and then there, don't go to the vaults. It's a trap. And it's like, yeah, you're late. That
it's a
was
trap.
perfect
Well,
comedic
and did
relief.
you notice the handcuffs they used on her were the same handcuffs that Val was talking about were in the Shatari thing in
Yes,
2012, the
yes, I
Avengers?
noticed that too.
I thought that was cool. So,
That
and
was that
also
was
you
fun.
notice like all the guys have super soldier serum. The girls don't. So when Bucky tied them all up, the guys had like the metal things like wrapped around them, like, and the
Yeah,
girls
yeah.
didn't. So I
They
thought
did.
that
They
was
had
interesting and made sense.
I did. I thought it did too. That whole chase in the desert was cool. Bucky comes in, saves the day, and then I like how they convince Bucky, but it takes Mel to be like, "Hey, everything's not cool," and Bob, and everybody's like, "Yes, Bob, we've been telling you." Another great. It's the comedy in this movie works really well because it's not shoehorned like some of those other cheesy comedic moments that the MCU could have that people have complained about too.
Like
And then
Jane?
yeah, and it makes perfect sense. So we got the comedy, but it's also very
No, the
emotionally
comedy
driven dark.
was well done, yeah.
And so that's when they then go to New York City. And I love too when they just drive right through the front door and Val was like, I left the front door open for you guys. Get up
Like,
here.
I just did this drywall.
Yeah.
But you
And
see, like, they're in Avengers Tower, and as soon as you see that, it's
it's now,
like, what are you, a
yeah.
spirit Halloween? Like, you're just
What do
opening
you
up
think about that?
inside.
That Val now owns Avengers Tower, where she even mentions it, all the heroic or history in that room specifically with the bar.
I mean, Pepper Potts had to have sold it to her, right? Because, like, she's still around.
I would love to know why they sold. Did they have to sell Avengers Tower to move upstate New York, or how did that whole thing work out? I'm
No,
very
they still had
curious.
Avengers Tower, didn't they, in Endgame? Yeah, in Endgame, they were working at
So
Avengers Tower.
now I guess maybe
No,
it's
they
one of
were
those
working on
things.
the
Tony's
compound,
dead.
not
They
in
didn't.
New York.
Yeah, because they were working out of the compound. So I'm curious.
Right.
Did they sell Avengers Tower out of New York City to make people feel safe? I'm very curious. I need some
That's a
history
good
on this.
question. I feel like they did address that at one point, or at least mention it, but I would have to look into that.
Yeah, I
I'm not sure.
because I wonder if it's one of those. You guys are bringing nothing but trouble having this here. Move out of New York City. We move upstate. Training facility. The Avengers are bigger.
Maybe he
I
sold
don't.
it during the blip.
Maybe. I don't know. I
Because
guess it
I mean,
just kind of
obviously, you know,
happened.
Pepper didn't blip,
Because we had the big cool A in that one earlier sequence, which I thought was a pretty fun little
right? Because it
callback
was
as
supposed to
well.
say Stark Tower.
Yes. And I thought the
Mhm.
fight when Sentry comes in, they bleached his hair, they dyed his hair, which was
That
funny.
was
And
funny, yeah.
well, we
He
even
was a
brushed
golden
past.
boy. Like, you wanted
Well,
him to be the
yeah.
all-American, like, blonde-hair superhero, even though Clark Kent's not. But I also wonder, like, did Marvel make him blonde just so they couldn't say that we were completely ripping off Superman?
Probably. I do
We're gonna
enjoy
make him
too.
human and blonde.
We did brush past the fact that Val was in there trying to be that nurturing mother, and then she ends up leaving, and that's what leads into this complete ass whooping. Everybody was trying to. They couldn't even get a hit in. And Bucky did get a hit in, and poor Bucky's
He
arm.
took his arm off and
That
hit him
thing
with his
comes off
arm.
really easily, huh? Like, you would think we'd have a better method at this point.
Right, he was shocked when they took it off and, when the Dora Milaje
Falcon and
took it
Winter
off.
Soldier, he took it
Yeah.
off. Now everybody's just
Now
ripping
he's,
this
like,
poor dude's arm
washing
off.
it in the dishwasher.
Yeah. Oh, that was a good moment. He drops the pizza sauce on him, and he's
Yeah.
oh man. But that was a fun scene. And then Guardian gets thrown out the window. Everybody gets their ass beat, and they just walk outside like, all right, that's it. And Yelena starts roasting everybody. And then we get that dark moment where Sentry's essentially, hey, why do I have to listen to you? Which I thought was another good moment. Why would I'm a god? And you even said it yourself. I'm stronger than any Avenger, which includes one god. So I am a god. I was like,
Right.
thank you. Thank you. Bob is talking sense right now. Why would he listen to her? He
If
has
you
no
can
reason
kill a
to.
god, are they a god? What is it Whiplash
Well,
says?
they end up,
You made a god bleed.
that's true. Well, they use the kill switch, or Mel does eventually, which unleashes the void. And I really liked how they did the void, and it went
He looked
straight
like
black. And
Peter Pan in Once Upon a Time.
I don't remember Peter Pan in there, but I could see
Peter
like
Pan
the
was just a
shadow.
black shadow.
Well, yeah, it was it was kind of creepy in how they did the voice and everything.
It was creepy. I guess I just like, I don't know. I guess some of the stuff is just like, it's just,
You had a problem with it. It doesn't
I,
seem
I
like you're
don't,
sold.
I don't know that I had a problem with it. Like I did still like the movie. Maybe I just wasn't the perfect target market for this specific movie, whereas I feel like I
I'm
am for a lot of other of the Marvel movies.
See, I'm interested on this because I love this movie, and usually you love them no matter what. So I don't know what to think.
I don't know what to think either. I guess I felt like something was missing for me. Like, and I can't pinpoint it because I did love everybody. I thought everybody did a great job in the movie, but I think it was Sentry that just didn't. I don't know what it was. I think it's just like the switch to just so quick
Straight up.
dark side and then so quick light side, and I'm just like, that's my issue with Michael Fassbender's Magneto. Was
Yeah.
it
Oh
just
God,
just
that's always been my
too
issue with that man's Magneto.
just too quick of like, oh, you did this, I'm here. And I get there's a level of mental illness here that makes it definitely more explainable. Whereas Michael Fassbender's Magneto was just like, yeah, that's
I'm
a
good.
great idea.
Now I'm
And then,
bad.
oh,
Now I'm
that's a
good.
great
Now I'm
point.
bad.
And yeah,
Now I'm bad again.
exactly. And it's like, yeah, it's like in Robin Hood Men in Tights. I'm on this side. Now I'm on that side. Now I'm on this
I
side.
always play both sides so that I come out on top. And well, I
And
get
I
it. I
don't think
do.
that was the case. I guess maybe this movie would have been better as a Disney Plus series. Like maybe it needed to be broken up more. Maybe
Oh,
we needed an episode of just
okay.
Bob. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I but
I don't write movies or TV shows, so I couldn't tell you
I
anyways, but
liked it
I
for
don't
what
write
because
shit.
I didn't feel like anything because he's depressed. The whole thing is Bob was a meth addict, which we come out, the void starts to
Which
happen,
we
taking
can't
over.
say Coke and Deadpool and Wolverine, and this dude's a meth addict.
I'm gonna
But
get to
again,
that in a second, which is
that's funny
hilarious.
though with the Kevin Feige. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, but before we get there, it's a very dark where I need to know how the super soldier serum was work because Red Guardian they were struggling to hold up that one brick or the piece of rock or whatever fell off the
Right.
building,
The
and then he
concrete
just
asphalt, whatever.
absolutely tanks an entire piece to his back like he's perfectly fine. And I don't know how his works, how the powers work.
Well,
I
he
would
got
love
the
some sort of
Russian
that.
kind.
True.
Maybe if it's made in
Strong like
America,
bear.
he can lift it easier. I don't know.
I don't know, but it was really dark when he tells that little girl you're okay, and then she just boom vanishes.
That
That
was
was
nuts. And the
crazy.
whole theater went, and at first I was like, holy crap, they're
I
really
was like,
going dark.
damn, wow.
But then when Yelena disappeared and people
She
went,
went into the
oh, I was
void.
like,
Yeah,
she's not dead now.
we know
Everybody's gonna come back. I
everyone's
knew
coming back.
everybody. It was like the episode of Doctor Who, like nobody's gonna die in this
But it
one
makes
except
sense though.
Taskmaster.
Like being the void, he just sends you to your worst moments, and so Yelena keeps reliving that moment where she sets Anya up for death, and it creates
Right,
really
but he
cool.
was
She
doing that
bursts through scenes.
before he went dark side.
Right. Well, he didn't know
He
he
was
was
doing
doing
it
it. You touched
unintentionally.
him. He was
Yeah.
because he didn't know how to control his powers, and he still kind of doesn't. But that
So we're
leads to
just
that
gonna
really cool
suppress.
sequence.
But that was the whole thing. Like Yelena
Well,
made the joke,
that's what
like,
she
so
was
you
telling
push
him.
these
You push
powers
it
down,
down. She
and
was
then
saying
he's
you have
like,
to learn to live with it versus
right.
push it
And then
down.
she's like, we're gonna talk about it. I already feel lighter because I've been talking about it. But he's essentially pushed this power down. He's been
Yes.
suppressing this power. So this power hasn't gone anywhere. This is still
That's where we'll
there.
get there. That's why
But
we'll get
we're
there
gonna give
in the
him
post
smoothies and let him
credits.
hang out, and
Yeah,
the post
and
credits didn't address
I
it.
okay, well, they kind of so
This
not
was the
really.
worst post credit scene I think we've
I
ever had.
will also get
Okay.
there too because I do
Oh my
like
god, I
how
feel
we
like one
get
of those
to
toxic Marvel fans. I'm gonna see
we do
myself
get to
out.
Bob. I like how he's sitting there. He's really struggling. He's buried. He's hidden away. He had a really bad childhood. He turned to meth because we get that whole scene where he was
The
the
chicken thing
chicken,
was funny. It
and then
was
like, what is
hilarious.
this? He goes, I was on meth.
That was
That was
hilarious.
amazing.
And then it brought me back to the
Love
Family Guy,
so
like
good.
chicken, the
Yeah, the
angry
chicken
chicken
and
that
Peter.
fights Peter.
That was so good. I
That
was
was
just
really
like, damn,
good.
that's a really clever. I was on meth. I loved that. That was really
That
good.
was good, yeah.
And we finally get to where I will say the final fight was not bad, where he's beating the void down. Yelena, that's where I have some issues with how she's flipping over the rocks. It's clear that she's doing I get it. I get it. I'm no
It
special
was a
effects
little too much,
artist.
and it's like in Black Widow, like
It was.
her fight scenes, her and whoever her stunt double is, they do phenomenal work.
Yeah.
And like, I don't like that we're reverting back to like
There was a couple
having to
moments,
do
yeah.
too much CGI. And like even in not Falcon and Winter Soldier, and Captain America: Brave New World, like the cherry blossom scene, we all had an issue with that.
Oh
Like,
god, that was
why are
yeah.
we
The gradients were way off. Why are you using that bad of volume CGI?
right? And I'm again, I don't do this work. I don't know how it
I don't
actually
either,
works
so
behind
I
the scenes, so it's
can't.
really
I
shitty to
can't.
judge. But like when I go back and I watch Spider-Man in the early 2000s and I see the CGI, I understand that because the early 2000s. Then I watch Jurassic Park and it looks phenomenal, and that was
Well, it's a lot of
1993.
practical. That's
Right.
why.
So, and I will take crappy CGI over practical if it's a safety concern, 100%. Like somebody died on the set of Deadpool, like that's not cool. Like
Right.
I get
You
that.
always
If
want
that's
safety
the
first.
reason,
Yes.
yes.
And again,
But there were
we're
just
not
some of
visual
these
effects
scenes were just a little
people either.
it was too much. Like she's not like they did do something to the Black Widows that gave them an extra boost, but it wasn't like a
Right.
legit super soldier
No,
serum
they don't
thing.
have they're not super soldier serum. No.
So but she's badass on her own. Like, why are you
She
trying to
is.
make it bigger than it is?
No.
I don't know.
I do agree. I definitely agree. I didn't thoroughly enjoy how that, but I do like how they basically save Bob, like, hey man, you need to live with it. I was wrong. You can't push it down. You got to live with it. They save him. He doesn't know what happens. And then I thought it was really kind of crazy how Val set them up with the press to be like the new Avengers and
I
Yelena's,
did
we
not see
own
that
you
coming
now.
at
I
all.
didn't either. That was kind of wild. All the while, I do wish we could get Kingpin in the movies because wouldn't the mayor of New York City be there for this moment?
Right. And do we know exactly when this took place compared to Daredevil? Because the fact that they're
Uh,
splitting Daredevil up, maybe Daredevil hasn't happened yet.
because there is no mention of vigilante task forces. I wonder if we're going to get any
Right.
of that. I
We should have had a
do
sign that said
wonder
Boat Fisk.
because, all right, now we'll get to the post credits. We got the one silly one. Yeah, that's Dave Harbor. He shaved. Ha, it's me on the cereal box. Haha.
Yeah, I had no problem with that. That was cute.
But then we get to the real one. And now it's 14 months later. Sam is mad because he's trying to trademark Avengers. And this kind of sets up two factions of the Avengers. They haven't recruited more people into the new Avengers. I do like how Dave Harbor, Guardian, comes in and he's the Z. He's all about branding and stuff. I do like that Sam's essentially saying that no, I don't like that Sam and Bucky are on opposite sides of the fence
I hate that. I
because they were
hate that.
friends. They become friends. I don't like that now they're set up on opposite sides. I
And
disagree
they
with that strongly.
filmed this during Doomsday filming. So why the F could Anthony Mackie
They could have
not
shown
have
them.
why
Yes,
couldn't the end credit scene have been Bucky and
them.
Anthony Mackie
It could have been trying to come to
having the
some agreement.
conversation?
Could have been
And
to some
then
agreement.
Bucky going like I want
Because
to break my
they're
pencil
sitting
right
up
now.
in their Avengers Tower, plenty of space. I don't like U.S. Agent. His beret looks stupid. First of
I'm
all,
good with the beret because it's
I
much
think it
better
looks
than
stupid.
his hat /
Okay,
helmet.
he likes the hat.
That
I
was
like the
funny.
hat.
I like the beret actually.
But then Bob's sitting there. He's not doing anything because if he becomes Sentry, Void is still there, obviously. So he hasn't learned to fully control the Void and how to deal with that, which I thought is interesting as well. You would have thought 14 months later. I don't like the time jump
Way to
either.
bring in Bucky's therapist. I was fine
And I
with it too.
really don't like that we are seeing the Fantastic Four ship coming into our atmosphere because now I feel like Marvel is rushing along. Marvel essentially is, oh, we have this Doomsday film next year with 75,000 characters, and we're putting this out before we all kind of, let's be honest, we all kind of assumed that we knew that Galactus was going to eat their Earth. But
Okay.
I think to
Well,
show Fantastic Four coming in on their ship at the end of this movie, I just don't like it. I didn't like this end credit scene. I hate that also. I feel like it's, oh, are we want to, we're not these toxic Marvel people. I liked the movie. The movie for me is an 8 out of a 10. I did not like
I
this
give it
post
a
credit
7
scene
out of
though.
10.
I just don't like this end credit scene. I thought the end credit scene was just not fitting to anything else. I would have liked
Right.
to have seen them debating the new Avengers. Maybe we see, if we're filming this during Doomsday, we could have done Anthony Mackie and Ant-Man and whoever's his Avengers are talking to the new Avengers and trying to just
What
come to some
about
agreement.
West Coast Avengers?
There you go. We could have, or where's
I
Kate
kept
Bishop?
waiting for them to say that. I wasn't
Where's
even worried
Kate?
about Young
Where's
Avengers because
America?
obviously
Where's
Sam
all these other
Wilson's
people? Or
not going to be
Shang-Chi?
on
Like,
Young Avengers. Yeah.
obviously. But I
So
do think the way that Captain America finished, it would have made sense to have Cap because him and Bucky are friends. So I don't
mhm,
like that now they're on opposite
they're
sides. And I
best
don't like
friends.
that we've put the
And if they
Fantastic
stop being
Four.
best friends, I'm going to get really mad.
I am going to be sad. I'm going to be really sad. They should not be. They shouldn't stop being best friends about this.
Yes,
For
exactly.
honestly, if anything, I feel like Bucky would have quit those new
Bucky needs
Avengers.
to start dating Sarah and become Sam's
But
brother-in-law.
legit, Bucky is the type of person who would have quit these new Avengers to go be with Sam. He would be on Sam's
Yes,
side.
100%. I hate this. I hate this.
So I don't like that. I don't like the Fantastic Four. I know you don't like it either.
So
We could have done something better with the end credit
my
scene.
first gripe is to all you Supernatural fans. How much did you hate Sam's wig in the frickin' finale? And we got not one, but two terrible wigs in this end
We
credit.
did get a couple of wigs.
Bucky looking like he's in a L'Oreal commercial, and then
Bucky's hair?
Ghost,
Yeah.
who I actually genuinely loved that Ghost and Ant-Man and Wasp and this. And I remember watching her in this, watching her, like she's a very pretty woman, but she's a badass character and she doesn't care about her hair. Why would she care about her hair? She's fighting people.
Yeah.
She's got stuff going on. And she had the messy hair. And like in this, they're like trying to do something with her hair that clearly is not going to be consistent with Doomsday because it's clearly not like, it's like when you get the flashbacks of Lily and How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
It's clearly not what her hair looks like right now. They're trying to make it look like something it's not right now. So I didn't like those, but that's superficial, whatever. I can ignore that. I did not like one, they didn't mention any other kind of West Coast Avenger, them not being BFF. And the thing with the Fantastic Four is we knew the Fantastic Four were coming. That wasn't a surprise. And I feel
We
like
did. We knew that we probably would have come. You're right.
but I feel like these end credit scenes now are not good. They're not exciting. They're not commercials for the next movie,
Not
as
setting
Deadpool would call
anything.
them,
No.
because they didn't follow through with so many. So I feel like they're just like, well, we have to do these.
Remember
because people
Shang-Chi's
expect
when
them.
we have the Hulk in them talking about his rings?
Yeah. Yes.
What happened there?
That may come about in Doomsday. We
I
will
know.
see.
I'm
But
so
obviously,
mad because
like,
I'm just so ready for more
we're
Shang-Chi.
really
The
only
fact that
going
we
to
haven't
have
seen
one
him in years.
Blade. Right. And then
Ryan
Jon
Coogler needs to
Snow.
direct Blade already. So yeah, Black Knight. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we never got that. And so, oh, and oh my God, the troll dude, Patton Oswalt.
Oh, not
Came
even
in
that.
the hair
Remember we got
time.
Harry Styles as Thanos' brother in the Eternals and
Yes.
that.
So I feel like they're playing it safe now, and they're like, we promised too many things that I do still have faith that those will pan out. The Marvel Universe has been a long game
Yeah.
for a while now. But you didn't show us anything new, and people are all upset like you're rushing it, like you had said. But also,
I
you
just
don't
do.
know
I
that
feel
the
like
planet survived. You don't know who's in that ship.
you're right.
You
I'm
don't know how much
absolutely
time has
assuming
passed.
that
This movie
Galactus
takes
eats the
place
planet.
right, but this movie looks like it takes place in the 60s, which could be irrelevant because it's a multiverse.
I think
But
they're in a
also,
different
Sue
Earth for sure.
Storm's
Yeah.
pregnant.
Nathan
So,
Richards. Yeah.
but did this take place decades ago and now it's the kids? And because the kids were in Secret Wars, the comics, the
No,
kids
see, I
were
don't think
relevant.
they're not going to do that with the
Don't know.
Fantastic Four. No, I don't think so. What I think is, I think they're in an alternate Earth and they come into our reality. That's what I
Oh,
think.
I think that
And
100%.
And I firmly believe Galactus is winning and eating that Earth, and that's how they're here. So we'll see.
No,
I know
I
it sounds like we're
100% think
bitching.
it's a
And
multiverse, but we don't know if it's a multiverse that's happening at the same time as
multiverse of
our
madness, some might say.
multiverse.
You're
Well,
right.
then it would be John Krasinski. Oh my gosh, you know what they should do? They should have a multiverse where Jimmy Woo is Mr. Fantastic.
You know what? We might as
And
well
then it
have
could
him
be
do
a
that. Why
big
not?
The Office joke.
Oh my god. Might as well at this point, right? It
Marvel,
does seem like
please
we're
make
kind of
this
complaining,
happen.
but
That would be
we
so
did
good.
enjoy overall. I would say we enjoyed a lot of this movie, most of this movie. I enjoyed it more than Lauren, which never really happens in Marvel films, but I do say there's faults to things, right? You're always going to have those kind of things just because we've been doing this for 17 years. Not everything's to be perfect, but I am glad that we're building to something again. I am glad that this is the
and they
first,
tied a bunch of movies together and shows together. Yes.
yeah,
absolutely.
this is the
I
first
think the last few
movie
movies
now. Well, we're in the new era, quote unquote, of their new plans that they have. So I am excited for that. Lauren gave it a 7 out of 10. I gave it an 8 out of 10, but I do say go see this movie. I'm probably going to go see it again just because I want to digest some more of it and think about it.
I'll definitely watch again, but I'll probably wait. I mean, I'm going to obviously watch again.
Well,
The only
I
thing
have
I
some
haven't
time.
fully watched again is Wakanda Forever because I don't want to ugly cry again.
Oh, that's the one I haven't watched for same. those kind of reasons.
Right. Even preparing for our last
I'm not
Thunderbolts
ready.
episode, I skipped through for the Valentino parts. I can't do that
I'm
again.
not
That was
ready to
rough.
watch that one again for that same reason. But overall, I would say we enjoyed this film. Do you have any final thoughts as we kind of wrap up our spoiler-filled review?
I am looking forward to rewatching it again to
Yeah.
better process it, because I do sometimes feel when I watch it a second time, I have a better understanding. And yes, go
Yeah.
watch this. I'm still not sure what was missing for me, but not
But that's
everything
okay.
that everybody makes is for everyone. So
No.
just because it didn't
It's
hit the bullseye for me, just
ha.
talking a Daredevil,
You're
doesn't
right,
mean it
though.
won't for
I
you.
mean, formulate your own opinions. That's what's
Yes.
the beauty about cinema and the beauty of art
And
and
yeah,
media.
and I love Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I love
She's
Jelena.
so good
I
in this,
love
man. So good.
Bucky. I hate to say this, but I liked John Walker in this. I thought he
I
did a
did
great
as
job.
well. I
Kudos to
thought
Wyatt
everyone
Russell,
there.
man.
Wyatt Russell's amazing. I love Wyatt
Yeah.
Russell. Truly, truly do. I think he's a great actor. And
Mhm.
I
I mean,
really
look at his
believe.
freaking parents. Of course he
Yeah. Well,
is.
his sister's Kate Hudson. And yeah, I mean, come on.
His dad's ego.
Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell. Come on, man. You got to be good, right? And Lewis Pullman acted his
He's a
booty off
product of
too. And
Overboard.
his dad's Bill Pullman. So, like, of course, and it's funny he's Bob in Top Gun too, and Bob in this.
That's Bill Pullman's son?
Yes, you didn't know that? That's Bill Pullman's
I
son.
didn't know that.
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
That's
I love Bill Pullman.
Lewis
But he
Pullman
was
is
in
Bill
a
Pullman's
Salem
son.
plot.
Yeah, and Lewis
Which
Pullman's a
wasn't
great
great.
actor,
Book is
man. I
phenomenal.
mean, he's an incredible actor. I highly recommend watching
Aw, it's Bill
things that he's
Pullman's
in.
son. That's so cute.
That's him, man. But whether you
Adorable.
formulate your own opinions at the end of the day, go see this movie.
Baseballs.
The next films
Sorry.
we got next are, Superman's coming up July 11th. Then we got Fantastic Four July 25th. Very, very excited for those.
Excited for
We have
Superman.
Ironheart.
What is wrong with
people
me?
are forgetting Ironheart. Ironheart's dropping in June.
Because they're not marketing it, like
It's
Megan
terrible.
said.
I'm with Megan. We're out here marketing for Ironheart. Go read some Ironheart comics. Check out Ironheart. I think I'm really excited for Ironheart. I hope you do
Something
a really good
came out
job.
on Free Comic Book Day that she was in.
Yes,
Marvel
Ironheart.
Voices.
There's some Marvel Voices. There's pretty good stuff about Ironheart. There's some good Ironheart comics out there. Check out Riri Williams. And we'll be doing a deep dive there. We will probably do an episode on Sentry as well. But more importantly, it is Star Wars month right now for us on the podcast. We just released an episode about Revenge of the Sith with season 7 of the Clone Wars tying in. We talk about, Order 66 and things in chronological order. And we're going to be talking Andor. We're going to be talking about the Gorman Massacre. We're going to be talking about some Ahsoka.
Do a whole timeline Ahsoka.
Yes, we are going to be talking about some good stuff up this month in May on the podcast. So make sure you guys please do us a favor, like, subscribe, share, follow, and we'll see you guys next time. Go listen to our other episodes, but we'll see you guys next week with more fantastic episodes. And until then, everybody, cheers.